Hey there, welcome back to the Mod Golf YouTube channel. So today I just finished up a great conversation on our audio podcast, our long form version of what we do here with the Mod Golf podcast. And that was with Donnie Dotson, who is the founder and CEO of Cary Golf Investments. And we talked about all the good things leading up to the creation of Cary, what they're doing now. And now we're going to talk about some other things. We're going to talk about the future of Cary, where they're going, the excitement of the traction that they have right now, and how they're going to build on that, and a few other things too that we'll get going on here. But first I want to bring Donnie on here. Good to see you again, Donnie. How's it going?
Doing great, Colin. Great to be here. Thank you.
Good stuff. So you had touched on this earlier, and I have to bring this up. There is a picture on the wall. Of course, you're repping the brand there with Cary over your, I guess that would be your left shoulder there. And then on your right side, there's a photo of you and a couple of golf buddies there. So you're all about experiences, what you're creating with Cary here for investors and for the players and those moments. So I believe there was a bit of a moment there that led to the taking that picture. Tell us about that one.
For sure. And those are three of my good buddies from business school at Duke who remain very close friends today. We were fortunate during our second year to be able to play our fair share of golf at Duke's course, which is phenomenal. And I was probably known every now and then for wanting to showboat in terms of how I could drive the golf cart. Even though I'm a poor golfer, the U.S. government spent a lot of money teaching me how to drive vehicles, and I was trying to show off some skills one day, and in the process, I drove the cart directly into the creek. There was no drinking involved or anything like that, and we had a good rapport with the team that worked there, so they were able to come help us out. But if you look closely in the photo, if you're able to zoom in or something, you can see that the creek is nose into the cart is nose into this creek, and my buddy Sam, who is just one of the best people I know, had recently purchased a new set of sticks. So my big concern in the moment was, did I just ruin his golf gloves? And fortunately, we were no worse for the wear. Got a good photo out of it, and it's something we laugh about today.
I love it. So that's a great opener, because it is a segue into creating golf experiences, and this one is without even swinging a golf club. It is a story you have for life. So let's bring that over to Cary. So we talked about, as I mentioned earlier on the podcast, in depth about the development, the aha moment, and all that. But to start us off for our viewers here, why don't you give us the if you want, the elevator pitch for what you're doing and why what you created with Cary.
Sure. At a high level, we recognize there are. Are you able to hear that?
Yep.
At a high level, there are a ton of up-and-coming professional athletes who are playing in the minor leagues of their sport, and from a pure talent or aptitude standpoint, and certainly from a desire standpoint, they have all the potential in the world to make the top of their sport within golf, reach the PGA Tour, the LPGA Tour, and go on to successful careers. But in order to get there, they are self-funding their careers or doing things that aren't allowing them to train and compete the right way. So how can we create a marketplace that will allow people, fans of the game, to invest in these golfers or athletes' careers directly? And then if and when they make it to the top of the sport, be able to participate in some of the upside. But along the way, get access to some of the unique experiences and engagement opportunities that you mentioned.
Nice. So I understand you've got 9 golfers in your stable right now. So tell us about 1 or 2 or 3 of them. Why don't you dig a little deeper into that? And if there's any story that you can relate. You did mention a great story of dinner with investors and the players at Pinehurst. So we'll keep that story, because if you want to go back and listen to that one, it is a great story. But share some other stories or moments and the personalities of some of the players you have already with Cary.
For sure, and I could talk about all 9 for hours. I've become very fond of them for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is they took a risk on Cary. Right, I refer to the first 9 as our pilot program, where we are testing a few things. Right, does the upfront capital, does that have a meaningful impact on their performance, their playing ability? Are there any unintended effects that we didn't account for? And so we're kind of testing for that as their season goes along. And then on the fan side or the investor side, do people value the engagement? So did they enjoy the chance to connect and play some golf together in Pinehurst a few weeks ago? With our 9, we wanted to find people that had done a lot of winning, that believe in themselves, that have incredible stats in game to support their climb. They just needed the resources. And we were intentional about picking players from different geographies, different tour levels, different status levels, certainly gender, race, very important to us. So if I have to pick a few off the top, I feel bad leaving anyone out, but a couple of the stories that I'll highlight is, one of the first people I got introduced to about 14 months ago when I started this discovery process is a player named Matt Picanso, who currently plays on the Korn Ferry Tour. Matt's a phenomenal story because he didn't really start playing competitive golf until he was 18, which is very different than your average tour pro, right? The story goes they got a club put in their hand when they were 5 years old, and they've been playing ever since. He was a baseball player, and if you see him, like the first thing that'll come to mind is he's an athlete, but he was a baseball player first and foremost, and got into golf later in life, figured out pretty quickly he was good at it, started having some success, and I think started dreaming of his PGA Tour career. But then life happened, and he had some unfortunate loss and some circumstances that kept him out of the game for a while, only to get back into it roughly 8 years ago or so. And if you look at his playing history, all he did was win playing on these different mini tour events, and he did just an absolute ton of winning. And some of the records he set are mind blowing. But he never felt the need, as someone who's a little older than your average tour player to start. He never felt the need to go do some of the Monday qualifiers where it's an expensive ticket each time. And if you win, you get to play in a PGA or Korn Ferry event. But if you lose, you're out, $3 to $4 grand for that 1 weekend alone. He just assumed he would keep making money on the mini tours and eventually, work his way up through Q school or something. And then we started with Cary, and in the middle of March, he went and did 2 Korn Ferry Tour qualifiers back to back, qualified both times. And it's been fun to see him out on tour because he hits the ball far away. He's obviously what I would call a seasoned professional, and he just gets what we're trying to do. So I like to highlight him a lot because probably without him, Cary, the idea of it may have not, gotten off the ground 14 months ago.
Gotcha. So of the 9 players you have right now, how many are women? And perhaps you can share a story there with one of them.
Absolutely. We have 3 women of our initial 9. And my goal for as we grow is to really cater to the women's side, since there are so many that really need the funding, even up to the LPGA Tour, frankly. One of the players that I highlight is Paige Crawford. She plays on the Women's All Pro Tour, the East Coast Women's Professional Golf Tour, and has some status on Epson, which is the next level down from the LPGA Tour. I met her at an event back in November, and what impressed me about her is I followed her around. It was a match play event. I followed her around for a few holes, and she hit some great shots. She won her match, but she had on the 18th, she was short-sided with a chip just off the green. On the behind the green was, it's Florida, so there's water everywhere. Behind the green was a pond, and it's, type Bermuda lies. And I was thinking, if this is me, I'm absolutely breaking out the Texas wedge and putting this and just trying to get it on the surface. And she opens up a high lofted club and just flips it up there at about 6 inches, puts a little spin on it, and just a classy shot. And so afterwards, I introduced myself and I said, "Hey, I'm Donnie. Great shot. It was fun following you around." And we started talking, and she tells me the story where she was her conference champion back in 2015, playing in the Big Sky. She was conference champion, won by like 7 or 8 strokes. But since then, as she's been a pro, she's only played in a few tournaments per year, simply because she didn't have the funding. And so about 6 months to a year ago, her and her partner decided, how can we go all in on Paige's career? If she's going to make it, this is the time. And so they essentially quit their job, sold a bunch of possessions, moved into a van that they converted very nicely, I should say, but converted. And now they're traveling the country playing professional golf. And the more I got to talk to her, the more I got to appreciate her game, the success she had at different levels, and just the story. Who doesn't want to be a part of Paige Crawford's future success, right? So that's one she's one I'm very proud to speak about, because it's good to help good people.
Those are great stories. And thanks for sharing those, Donnie. So we talked about the past, the aha moment in your background, professionally and personally, that led up to the creation of Cary. Talked about what you've been doing now. Let's crystal ball gaze here. What are your hopes, dreams, and aspirations and potential for Cary as you see? What is your roadmap? I know it changes as an entrepreneur. Will change as you go here, but what do you see for the rest of this year and let's say a 5-year plan or so? Where would you like to see Cary go with the potential and the size of the market here?
Yeah, for this year, we're going to continue to prove out the validity of what we've built with this pilot program and the value we're able to provide. And if we can do that incrementally at scale in terms of helping some additional golfers, but also introducing what we're doing to a broader group of fans at a future event, maybe later in the year, postseason, that would be ideal. My goal is to, and I should say, we have some big lifts in front of us in terms of product development and navigating regulatory hurdles, but my goal is to have a marketplace in existence within the next year where non-accredited investors can come in and they can contribute directly to a golfer or golfers of their choosing, or they can invest in a broader portfolio of golfers in their careers. And I think if we can prove it in golf, the model and this overarching thesis of the cost it takes to train and compete the right way as an up-and-coming athlete, it applies to a host of other sports, right? And tennis is an obvious one, but certainly baseball, MMA, esports. How can we expand to these areas where we can help them out? But let's prove it in golf first, kind of one step at a time.
Love it. Love it. So as we finish up here, let's kind of switch gears a bit here. Yourself as an entrepreneur, we've talked about your background with Goldman Sachs and also with Sport Radar and with the military and other great things you've done that's kind of informed you and kind of brought all this together as an entrepreneur. So let's talk about your entrepreneurial journey a little bit. Have you always had this entrepreneurial bug? Is it something you did as a kid, or was just kind of dormant and on hold and now unleashed with the opportunity with Cary? So tell us a bit about your entrepreneurial journey and having the confidence to do what you're doing now.
Well, I think probably like a lot of people, where entrepreneurship has become something a little more attainable, at least in terms of creating a startup or going after it. I've spent much of my adult life looking at problems or potential business opportunities thinking, wouldn't it be great if this, or wouldn't it be great if that? And typically these are ideas that I'll bounce off my brother, or he'll do the same for me, to me for sure, or my wife. And it's just things that I observe and have never really thought about really acting on. And I think, you mentioned Sport Radar. I think before I was at Sport Radar, I used to think of the startup community or founders as people who were of a different class, that were maybe born into or just had higher education. They were just smarter. They were just naturally different than the rest of us. And when I was at Sport Radar, I had a chance to talk with a lot of early stage startup founders within sports tech. And what I saw time and time again is people were no smarter. A lot of the ideas that we were tossing around in Zoom meetings just like this, where it was in the spirit of brainstorming, that were creative and sometimes certainly creative, but certainly less than impressive. And I just walked away from these conversations thinking, these aren't the smartest people in the world. They aren't the there's nothing unique about them other than the ones who are successful execute. And I look back on my time in the military and in government service, and the one thing I can point to is I've always had opportunities to work independently, and I'm not afraid to execute. So how could I kind of lean into those execution skills, one foot in front of the other, and build something from scratch? And so that's kind of been my mantra or process as we've gotten Cary going.
Love it, love it. Yeah, idea is one thing, but of course the execution is the majority, if not almost all, of the work to make that happen. So to finish up here, perhaps you just shared a couple great nuggets there for people considering entrepreneurship. Perhaps they have an idea, whether it's in the golf industry or sports, or maybe outside of it in another sector, and they're watching us here today. Can you perhaps give some of your personal tips, maybe things that worked, maybe they didn't, people that are starting and have an idea and don't know where to go next? What would you recommend for them?
Yeah, for sure. And we talked about it during the audio version here, but I would highly recommend getting in front of potential customers and just having conversations or observing them in the wild and thinking about, or really learning their process if you haven't lived the pain point yourself as an entrepreneur. The second thing that I lean on often is one of my advisors, who was a founder at Equity Zen, and he's been incredible supporter of what we're doing. One of my advisors said something to me during our first call when I was asking about, okay, there's all these things I have to do to make Cary a scalable enterprise and to cater beyond golf and do the things we want to do. What is your advice in terms of, not feeling overwhelmed or not feeling like it's an insurmountable goal? And he just said very simply, he said, do the thing, do the thing, whatever it is your thing is, find a way to get it done. And you can start small. You have to start small, but just find a way to do the thing. And I know that may sound simple or trite, but for me, it's something I think about every day, and it's been very helpful as kind of a guiding mantra as well.
Yeah, that's great. Of course, in entrepreneurship, you learn very quickly that there is no perfect, that you just have to kind of get it out the door and ship it and test it and see what works and what doesn't. Don't forget about the F word, as in fail. It's all an experiment, and just get it out there and see what works, what people want, and ask questions. So you made some great points there, Donnie, about saying advice. Ask for advice. Be curious. Don't come across that you have all the answers, because you don't, right? So that balance of being confident, knowing what you're doing because you love this space, whatever it is that you're in, but also being humble that you do need some help, and that goes a long way, because then people want to help you because there is that human connection, just like you are creating with Cary, which I absolutely love. So hey, why don't we leave it at that? Because once again, we do want to encourage people now, our viewers, to become listeners. So down below, I will include the link to our audio podcast, so you can even learn more about the Cary journey and what Donnie's been up to. But as we finish up here, Donnie, why don't you let our viewers know where they can learn more about Cary Golf Investments?
Thank you, Colin. The best place to learn about Cary is through our website at www.cary.golf, or you can follow us on Instagram at Know Your Cary. That's KNOWYOURCARRY. Thank you.
Good stuff. And I will include those down below too, to make it nice and easy for all of our viewers to find out what Cary's up to. And they're doing some great stuff. And hey, so why don't we leave it at that? Donnie, good to see you again. Thanks for your time today, and hope to see you in person sometime real soon. So thanks for joining me today on the Mod Golf YouTube channel.
Thank you, Colin. And I would love to see you in person. I'm always looking for an excuse to get to the Pacific Northwest. So thanks for making the time, and look forward to talking again here soon.
Sounds great. All right. Bye for now.
Thank you.